our experience and our strategy very much builds on general market-based incentives, such as the CO2 tax introduced already in the beginning of the 1990s, now widely discussed in many other European member states and elsewhere. We have introduced a green certificate system for renewable electricity production, which is also now in the proposals made in, for example, in the US Congress on putting in place incentives for renewable electricity production also in the US, the same kind of model. We have combined that with more specific investments or public-private partnership when it comes to development of technology sectors, such as solar cells, where there is now an investment program going on or just renewed. We form a strategy for biogas. There has been similar also specific programs for some technologies in the development. But I think it's to put the major and the main economic incentives, the basic market-based ones, is the most important foundation for this change. And it also makes this country as a market for developing new technologies in a market where there is a price on carbon and where the business makes sense in a way that I think it will do, and also in many other markets in the coming years and decades. The strength in the Swedish technology society or the technology clusters around the clean tech is also very much about system solutions. There could be all sorts of incentives or machineries or innovations that is important in itself. But to meet the challenges we meet, the most important thing is then to find the intelligent system solutions, to put these innovations and technology together in technological systems, but also systems that work together with the society and city planning and so on. And city planning or urban development, I think, is made the most obvious example for this. This world with a growing population and the growing economy is also an urbanizing world, where some years ago we reached a tipping point where the majority of the people of the world lives in the great cities. And that's the challenge also that we're facing globally. We have put this under the community umbrella as the Symbiocity. And it's an umbrella under which consultants and technology developers and others work together to form the solutions for sustainable city building. And this leads me, I think, to the final point, that to drive this development, we need cooperation, cross-sector cooperation between political sectors. That's part of our agenda this autumn, to bring ministers from different sectors together. We met with environmental ministers and energy ministers in Åre, in the mountains of Sweden, in July, to discuss a common agenda on the climate, on technology development and clean tech development. And we bring the conclusions from that discussion to industrial ministers that will meet in Umeå in the beginning of October. And then from there, this process will go on, and hopefully then end up in the decision of as I mentioned, the long-term competitiveness strategy in the spring, decided during the Spanish presidency. But very much of this is to have a cross-sectoral thinking and a policy coherence, and really using the instruments of innovation policy, of funding, of whatever instruments there are in the European toolbox and on the government level to pave way for this change to a more eco-efficient economy. That's one kind of cooperation. Of course, there is also important of the public-private cooperation. I think or private-public partnership. As a small country, I think we've been quite successful in that sense from many aspects. But there is an obvious potential for improve also in the clean tech business. There are many or sometimes too many government agencies and others being active in this area. We're trying now to coordinate them even better. And we have assigned the Swentech agency as a special assignment to give proposals for the government to form the long-term strategy and proposal how to move this development further. And that's a process that's involved many of you present here today and others in the clean tech sector. Of course, we also need international cooperation, the global agreements in Copenhagen, the work we do in the European Union and so on. We have developed also bilateral cooperation, which have, for some countries, which I think also indicates that Sweden, in certain areas of the clean tech sector, has actually a world-leading role. We have a cooperation with China just in this area of urban development and sustainable cities. There is a cooperation with Brazil that will be further developed now, and it's the EU Brazil summit in Stockholm in just 2 weeks, I think. And that especially goes for biofuels and finding the second generation more efficient biofuels, developing where also Brazil is a world-leading country. And we do have a special cooperation with the United States that will also further develop, and that will also, maybe some of that experience will be brought into the European-US summit in Washington, the beginning of November, where both from the US side and the Swedish side we have experience, we have a positive experience of this cooperation, and we think we can bring some of that into the broader European-US cooperation. Just as some example how this is creating new cooperations on the governmental level, also paving way for business and new jobs and growth in the future. So by that, I just then back to where I started to congratulate you of being the forerunners, the pilots in this exciting development, and wish you all the best for this Clean Tech Venture Day and for your business, doing good for good business and also good for society and for future generations. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Alterå. We have, like you just mentioned, we have a lot of entrepreneurs here today. What do you think their biggest challenge is within next year or two?
Well, you know that better than me. But
from your point of view.
Yeah. No, I think that there is an obvious task for governments to reduce uncertainties for the business. The Copenhagen conference is the crucial moment, but also on national and European level to lay out a path that is as clear as possible, and to make the business environment in that way not safe, but at least less exciting. It's a lagom, it's a Swedish word, but it will still be exciting. But we can reduce risks from the political risk in your business. That is, I think, our challenge, but yours as part of the business.
More of a private question. If you were an investor, what investment strategy would you have? Would you be focusing on any particular technology or?
I would, I guess, well, for some reason, then I guess I'm not in the business on the politicals, but I've been at least some experience, and since that is basically in the energy sector, which also might influence the examples I choose and so on. I guess I would be somewhere in the renewable energy sector, but if there is any advice word I can bring, I think I would be a bit cautious on technologies that depends heavily on some specific incentive or some intelligent way of finding your way through the tax system or so on, because policy will not be complete. We will some mistakes, some imperfections, and that could, of course, for shorter periods make some sectors or subsectors very profitable. But I would seek for the solution that makes sense from a perspective of physical resources, so that seems sound and over long term, and has some global potential, not only in one country, and that I think will be even if you sometimes have the right to complain on imperfections in the policy making, that will sooner or later, we will learn from our mistakes, and then the basic sound solutions will be the long-term profitable ones, and I would be at least try to make that analysis.
Thank you very much. Before you leave, I would like to hand over a gift from Stockholm Cleantech Venture Day, which all the speakers will receive today. It's a planted tree from Viskogen. So they actually planted a tree for you. Thank you very much.
Thank you.